in kids 8 children growth. So Kate, you can tell me when I pass the slide and
Okay. So
I do follow.
Thank you, Clarice. So thank you for including me in this presentation. I hope this session will be beneficial for you. We've got a short agenda, so the slides will cover like nutrients important for a bone growth and the important fat-soluble vitamin like vitamin D and K, mechanism of action of vitamin K2. You know this vitamin very well because it's a part of our portfolio, but hopefully I will add new research around this important nutrient. The connection between vitamin K, suboptimal intake and growth of children, and of course, very important MENA-Q7 studies. So if we go to the first slide, Clarice, if you can change. First, I would like to start with the overview of bone growth and nutritional factors. So we know that the final height of any person is not determined by a single factor. So it's not only vitamin D, it's not only calcium. It is rather the sum of genetics, hormones, nutrition, and even sleep. So take care of the proper time for a sleep of your children because it's really important also. So when gene may encode the limit, it's the daily habits that decide how close to that limit your child can get. And researchers estimate that about 1/5, which is around 20% of the final outcomes, can be attributed to the environmental factors. And nutrition is known to be the biggest non-genetic factor contributing to the growth. So what kids eat during the childhood and adolescence is very, very important. And it's the time when the bone grow with the highest speed. So, and now we know that building strong bones require multiple nutrients. Think about the teamwork, not about the one person. It's the multiple nutrients which are necessary to support the healthy growth. Essential nutrients for skeletal health include calcium, vitamin D, magnesium. You can see more on this slide. But today I would like to focus on the rising star, vitamin K2. And you have to remember that vitamin K2 does not magically add inches or centimeters, but it supports the foundation that makes healthy growth possible. So the key takeaway is to keep these nutrients coming as a part of the balanced diet to build stronger bones and to help realize full genetic potential. So if we go to the next slide, this slide is focused on only fat-soluble vitamins, which are really important for a bone development and bone growth. I would like to include and talk only about vitamin D3 and vitamin K2 because they work synergistically. So what does it mean that they work synergistically? It means that two of them work better together than they do on their own. And first, I will start with vitamin D. So this is kind of delivery crew. It helps you absorb calcium from food and move it to the circulation so it can reach the skeleton. And when vitamin D drops very low, below 10 nanogram per milliliter, which is about 25 nanomolar per liter, I don't know what kind of units are used in your region, research showed that linear growth can slow by roughly 6 milliliter per year. So at the beginning, 6 milliliters may not sound like much, but stretch across the whole growth window year after year, it adds up. So the flip side is encouraging because the same studies show that for every 10 nanomolar per liter of rise in child's vitamin D, height velocity improves by roughly 1.5 millimeter per year. So even small improvements count, and supporting optimal vitamin D level may help kids keep growing and support better growth. This is especially relevant in many parts of Asia, where vitamin D level is common in children, because these days kids tend to spend more time inside playing computer games instead of outside activities. And many studies, large studies, support and show that there is a substantial number of kids with suboptimal 25-hydroxyvitamin vitamin D in Asia. So now vitamin K2 steps in, and I will explain more about vitamin K2 on the next slide. But I want to only mention that if the knowledge about vitamin D is pretty common, every doctor knows about the importance of vitamin D for bone, vitamin K2 is pretty new. But the key authorities, very important authorities like EFSA, or the Linus Pauling Institute recognize that vitamin K2 is important in facilitating bone formation. And recently, in 2005, even BPOM placed the same opinion on their website that vitamin K is crucial for a bone development. So if we go to the next slide will show and will summarize what we know about vitamin K. And you know some basic already because Clarice trained you so much and so hard that everyone knows what is osteocalcin and how important this protein is. But on this slide, I wanted to add also a collagen to the full story. So the key mechanism of vitamin K2 action, which is very well known by you, is that vitamin K2 is able to activate osteocalcin, which is this vitamin K dependent protein produced by a bone forming cells. And based on a research and a clinical studies, we know that when it's switched on, activated osteocalcin, it helps lock calcium into bone. So the calcium we absorb from the food can be used in the right place. So it won't stay in a soft tissue, it will be transported into the bone tissue where it should be. So osteocalcin, I won't go more into details because you know the story very well, but I would like to add the second mechanism of action, which is the collagen. And collagen is known because, and it's important why? Because bone is not just only minerals. Bone is built also with non-mineral part, and our collagen is kind of scaffold. So vitamin K2 helps the cells that make the scaffold, improving bone quality, not just how minerals is there. Because collagen constitutes a substantial part of the bone, which I mentioned before, it's very important to improve collagen quality and content to help make bone stronger and less brittle. At the end of this story is the bone density. So we know that vitamin K2 is able to support bone density, and by improving calcium where it's placed, so by improving how calcium is placed and retained, vitamin K2 supports better mineralization. So over time, it translates to denser, stronger bone, and of course, it supports better bone development. So the bottom line about the vitamin D and K, it can be short story that vitamin D3 is kind of transporter, it is kind of helper. It helps get calcium in, and vitamin K2 helps and tells the calcium where to go. So it supports strong and well-built bone. So if we go to the next slide, the key question will be, I mentioned before that low vitamin D level is associated with the height of the kids. And there are some studies which show the deficiency. Do we have a similar story about vitamin K? And this year, it was a published paper from Asia, which showed that the low vitamin K status and growth are connected. So the study was published, and the study was enrolled look at more than 200 kids with short stature and with 400 control kids. And the results clearly show that the kids with the short stature had much, much lower statistically significant concentration of vitamin K2 in the blood than the healthy controls. Additionally, when the researchers looked closer at the data, they found out that kids aged 2 to 15 years old, the serum level in these kids dropped gradually when they age. So teenagers had even lower vitamin K2 level when the toddlers, for example. And we know also based on the studies from the Netherlands that kids, they've got a high demand for vitamin K2 and they exhibit high level of inactive osteocalcin. So this is again confirmation that vitamin K2 is really important for kids to support the healthy bone development. So this research at the end, when they took all numbers and they calculated statistical power, etc., they found out that vitamin K2 suboptimal intake is independent risk factor for short stature in children, and it may increase the likelihood of growth impairment by 50%, which is a lot. And the question is about the diet. Maybe, it's like only one specific study, and it's not true that we don't have the proper intake. But we know that there are huge changes in the diet over the last 50 years, and the intake of vitamin K2 dropped dramatically. And the drop in vitamin K intake was also correlated with the fracture risk. So the researcher had a discussion that the low vitamin K intake contributes to the poor quality of bone and increase the fracture. It may increase fracture risk. So the optimal vitamin K2 intake is very important for children, but it's very difficult to get it. And Clarice put very nice pictures like the icons on this slide, which represents how much food you need to have to provide only 45 milligram of vitamin K2. And you can see that 45 microgram of vitamin K2 as MK7 is not a lot, but to provide this amount from food, your child will need to have like 5 liters of yogurt, of 5 milliliters of milk, or had 4 kilograms of beet, which is a lot. So unfortunately, the optimal intake of vitamin K or K2 even is very difficult or almost impossible from diet. That's why supplementation seems to be the best choice to support the healthy growth. And if we go to the next slide, it's our MENAQ7 studies. So I mentioned on the previous slide that low vitamin K status corresponds to the short stature. We know that the low vitamin, that children have the high needs for vitamin K2 supplementation, but do we have any clinical evidences that vitamin K2 supplementation will improve kids' health? And NATO Pharma performed MENAQ7 study in 2029, and Gnosis is also the leader in the research and supports multiple clinical studies. And I'm happy to share that Gnosis is the only company who has clinically validated product in kids. And two clinical papers were published. The first paper was published in 2029, and the study was performed in healthy kids, and they showed that the kids were able to improve activation of osteocalcin. And outside of activation of osteocalcin, which is like improvement of extrahepatic vitamin K status, the study also showed that the intake of 45 micrograms of MENAQ7 was safe for the kids. So this is very important that not only vitamin K status was improved, but no safety signals were noticed. But the vitamin K status is only a biomarker. So do we have any clinical evidences that vitamin K2 can support also bone density or bone strength? And in 2013, the Turkish study was published in a small pilot study in kids with thalassemia major when vitamin K2, MK7, 50 microgram daily, combined with vitamin D, was used in this study. And the data showed that this treatment not only improved extrahepatic K status, but leads to improvement on bone mineral density. And because the studies are old, I would like to share the recent evidences, clinical evidences, that current products on the market are also evaluated from the clinical aspect. And the recently published paper and in Nutrition Journal evaluated the results from the Sprout clinical study, which is a very well designed and robust study when they look at the effect of long-term oral nutritional supplementation combined with dietary counseling with young children uh, at nutritional risk. And the study found that the supplementation and the supplementation contain vitamin K2 and D3. I mentioned both this fat soluble vitamin as important nutrients to support healthy bone. They found that after 8 months of this program, when vitamin K2 was a part of this treatment, uh, the researcher noticed improvement in growth, bone strength, and overall health. And vitamin K status was also evaluated and it was improved in this study. So, in general, just to summarize, I hope I convince you today that vitamin K2 is very important nutrient. It's kind of novel star because it's not recognized by every doctor yet, but I hope in the future it will be recommended. It's very important for a healthy growth and development of kids' skeleton. So I will end here and I will let Clarice continue to not take so much time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kate.